there's a little bit of a focus, I think, too much on the pricing side of crypto, but the tech side of crypto is actually really cool, right? You can look at companies like Visa and Mastercard and their experimentation there, which is it is fundamentally a better financial rail for a lot of things versus an ACH or a Swift.
Hello, and welcome to Proof of Talk, the cryptocurrency podcast where we invite leaders and builders into the space to come on and talk about their experience in the industry as well as the projects and products that they've been building. My name is Andre, and I've been in the cryptocurrency space since 2017. I've also helped co found algorithmic crypto trading platform Acer that enables users to quickly and easily automate their trades while managing the risk. I'm here today with Itai, who's the CEO of a Web3 authentication solution called Dynamic.xyz. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. Life's good. How about you?
Yeah, same. Pretty good. Pretty good. I think you guys have a really cool solution. I think I've seen authentication, like many authentication solutions, but I don't think I've seen a Web3 focused authentication solution that's also doing SSO and some other bits. So I think it'd be fantastic to explore that. I just thought maybe it's a question that I started asking people now that I find really different answers. Like, how did you get into crypto and Web3, and what's your journey being like to get to the point where you are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder, the folks at Zara Dynamic are two. It's my co-founder Yoni and me. Yoni is, I think, one of the best engineers of all time, and I'm on the product and kind of businessy side. And Yoni and I have known each other for about 18 years at this point. And in 2012, 2013, we started getting really into crypto. And
Right.
so, I think we bought our first Bitcoin around that time. And if you kind of go back and look at kind of the chat history between Yoni and me over the last, 10, 12 years, I would argue that about 75% is crypto related.
Damn.
And so
Nice.
we've been obsessed with this concept of shared rails, of kind of a system that's a decentralized system where you can transfer value globally for a very long time, but always from the sidelines. And so I
Right.
would argue we got into crypto twice. The first time when we actually got interested in the space in 2012, 2013, and started being obsessed with it and followed, we thought we were late to Bitcoin and late to Ethereum and late to Solana, and we had all those feelings. But then the second time we got into crypto was when we actually started Dynamic. It was very clear to us that we're going to start a company. It was very clear to us that we're going to start a company in crypto because that was the topic we were most excited about.
Right. When did you found Dynamic?
We found Dynamic officially end of 2021. So December 2021, we raised our seed shortly thereafter, and then we started building an actual company.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
Also,
Now,
congratulations on the Solana support. I noticed that you've recently started adding that, so that's fantastic.
thank you. I appreciate that. That actually, by the way, that ties into why we started Dynamic. So in around September, October 2021, we got obsessed with anything Solana related. And I think we were trying to mint Degen Apes, which was one of the first Solana mints. And we got so upset by the process. We're like, okay, clearly there needs to be a better way here. So actually, Solana is not just an announcement today. It's actually a part of the reason why we started Dynamic. We actually had on our seed kind of wish list to get investment from Solana and work closely with that team, which we did. And so it's
Oh,
kind of a full
wicked.
circle for us on that launch.
That's incredible. Do you have a Solana phone?
I do not have a Solana. Phone. I kind of wish I did. I've FOMO about multiple things. Solana phone is one of them, and the Apple Vision Pro is the second at this point. So
Oh
I
yeah,
it's both are on my wish list of things to one day get.
I know what you. I know that feeling. I feel like I'm in the exact same spot. So I've just recently found out Solana are doing a pre-order for Chapter 2, which is supposed to come out in 2025. And if you get it now, you only need to pay like $450, which for a mobile phone, that's super
Oh, it's
cheap.
phenomenal. No,
So I'm really considering it.
You should go for it. You should go for it. Again, like don't think about it as $450. Think about it as one eighth the price of Apple Vision Pro. So I think everything should be priced in number of Apple Vision Pros,
I don't know what it's like in the US. I think the price in the States starts with like 3,500 or something.
something like
In
that.
Europe, it's insane. It hasn't yet been released in Europe, but there's some leaked footage about what the pricing is going to be about. So I think the top of the range, which has, I think maybe a terabyte of memory, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's got like a terabyte. It's 6,000 euros.
Wow. Okay, that's. I mean, again, think about it. That's 12 Solana phones.
That's 12
That's
Solana phones.
really,
Yeah,
that's really the math here.
yeah, that is crazy. I do hope that future iterations are going to be a bit more affordable because at this price point, it's just like a toy for the rich. I don't think how you would normally. I just don't justify spending 6 grand on
You,
that kind of device. Like imagine you could get yourself a really high end computer, a great phone, a VR headset, and probably a scooter, electric scooter, if you want it all in that price.
that is a good point. That is a good point. It is very out of reach. I 100% agree. I think it's also TBD whether it's actually something you use on a day to day basis.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see if it's actually gonna disrupt the way people do things. It is interesting tech. Like I like the technology behind it. I like the kind of. I've saw a few videos of the features that it has. So there's definitely potential, and I'm interested. But I'm not like 6,000 euros interested. I um,
I agree. I agree.
okay, so obviously you do Web3 first, but you also do SSO, you do Google, you do Discord, you do X, and authentication with social media. What's the connection between the two?
Yeah, so it's actually on the SSO side or the email, social, phone login. It's not the log side on its own. It's login plus the generation of an embedded wallet. And really, that part of the business is around solving this really interesting problem, which is we fundamentally believe that anything you use, if you open your phone and look at your apps in a couple of years, everything will have a crypto component. And it might be in
Right.
the forefront, right? It might be that you open your app and you can see crypto in the forefront. It might be completely the rails for your application to transfer money or to transfer identity without you ever knowing. If it's the rails for your identity, if you log in and you log into app A and you can send money to a different app B, and it just kind of works and it's dollars on one end and dollars on the other, or euros or anything like that, or pounds. You shouldn't need to know it's crypto. You should just log in with your email or Google, etc., and have everything work. And so that part of the business, what we're trying to do there is help developers create that experience, create essentially the crypto enabled stack. The ability for you to
Right.
log in with your email address, log in with your social address, but then generate a wallet, which is your outlet to the crypto ecosystem, and use that as a way to kind of create these really innovative apps. They use crypto in the background, but without folks saying crypto at all. We see a lot of our customers, by the way, do that today. So IYK, that's doing physical to digital experiences, or Bracket Game, which is a social kind of, a sports game, or anything like that, have completely abstract away crypto and use email, social login, and put crypto in the background.
That's really interesting, and it's really interesting. You've mentioned the word abstract away crypto or the complexity of crypto. I was literally talking to OKX's chief of innovation the other day, and I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this. I guess I'll find out.
We'll know in a
um,
couple of weeks, I guess.
Yeah, but they're also introducing a crypto wallet that's supposed to abstract away from the user having to connect to different blockchains. So they're going to support 85 plus blockchains straight out of the box. So it's like your gateway to Web3. It's no longer, oh, this is EVM, or it's just here's the entirety of Web3.
That is very much where I think we'll go as an industry, which is their crypto is this magical thing. It really is like this magical thing that allows you to kind of create permissionless innovation on top of these like shared networks, right? It's what it's email. It's the concept of an email network where I can send something from Google and you can get it in an Outlook, but for money and for identity and for everything else. And so, but the challenge is there's a lot of complexity in implementation of this stuff, right? It's
Of
non
course, yeah.
straightforward. So, what we'll see, in my opinion, over the next couple months and years is that abstraction layer, right? And that abstraction layer is a combination of authentication and embedded wallets and account abstraction and on ramps and off ramps. And to your point, abstraction of chains, right? So, solutions like you're describing, or bridges like layer zero or wormhole that essentially and are all kind of different components to I want to log into an app with the way I want to today and transfer information or money or identity to a different app and not have to worry about anything else. Not have to worry about chain or conversion or on ramp offer. Just have it work, right? And that's what we're going to as an industry. And so I'm not very surprised that OKX would be, or anyone else would be developing something like that. I think it's going to be an extremely powerful feature.
Oh yeah, and if you think about the kind of what enables you to do, it's actually just using it as a user, because now there's only so much complexity around it. There's so many decisions at every single point. What chain you're going to use, what kind of wallet you're going to use. You can't stick with one kind of solution. If you choose Ethereum, well, you're not going to be able to connect to Solana, so you need Phantom. But then you only have Solana and nothing else. You have to keep track of so many different things. But I saw that you guys support Cosmos, which is really cool because I love Cosmos, and I think Cosmos is kind of this idea of the like a internet of blockchains, everything interconnected, but the barrier to entry there is existing chains are finding it quite difficult to integrate with their like intercommunication protocol because it's not as easy as a bridge. The way it works is it creates kind of like a very light version of blockchain A on blockchain B, so both chains are aware of each other's state. But it requires cooperation across everyone. So right now, you do have the chains that started using Cosmos SDK, but you don't have the chains that didn't start with Cosmos SDK in mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, look, the way we think about this stuff, right, and the reason we have Cosmos and Solana and EVM is at the end of the day, complexity creates room for business opportunities,
Yeah.
right? They create room for value added service that can abstract complexity, right? And so every time to your point, you describe complexity on the Cosmos chain, I hear that as an opportunity for a startup to arise and abstract that away.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's so much opportunity there. There's probably too much opportunity in crypto. That's why you have so many products coming out. So if I connect my app using your authenticator, using Dynamic on Cosmos, would I have access to the data that all Cosmos SDK chains use? Like, can I use all of the other apps?
So it's a good question. So on Cosmos, we still only support third party wallets. We don't support our embedded wallet just yet. Once we do, yes, ideally you will be able to access all of them. There is some nuance there. It's a non-trivial project.
Right.
Yes, the idea, and it comes into the idea of, is an embedded wallet a global wallet or a siloed wallet, right? And so there's a lot of nuance there that we're working through.
Yeah, yeah. I expect it's a non-trivial thing to do for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Let's call that Q3, Q4 roadmap items.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But you can SSO just as you would normally and not have to worry about Web3 if you didn't want to, right?
That's exactly right. So maybe we can give it in the sense of a game, right, or a sense of let's give two examples, right? So there's a company called IYK. IYK
Hmm.
does kind of physical digital experiences, right? You
Right.
might get like a really nice a piece of merch, and then you can tap and scan it with an NFC code and get a digital version of that or digital kind of experience as a result. For that digital experience to happen, you need a wallet, right? But you, the person buying that shirt or buying that piece of merch, should not really care about any of that stuff. You just tap, you should log in with your phone, and you should be good to go. And
Right.
so that is an experience that we're essentially trying to build that of someone going through the full crypto experience without knowing it's crypto. Or there's another company called Bracket Game that gives you the ability to buy shares, virtual shares in kind of NFL teams for games, right? For
Right.
like uh, it you as a person that just wants to participate with your friends shouldn't care about crypto. You should just be able to participate and engage with the 49ers or the Chiefs or anything of that sort. And so um, those types of experiences, we call them the crypto enabled companies, are these magical experiences where you don't see crypto at all. It's just an infrastructure layer.
Yeah, I see that kind of as a trend across different companies, which is nice to see that there's this kind of understanding that you need to abstract away from the complexity of crypto. There's these guys at Horizon. They're making a tool that allows game developers to access Web3 data in game engines, like in Unreal Engine and Unity. They have SDKs for that, so you can query the chain, get the data you need, and basically put it in a game. It also allows the creation of wallets under the hood. So if you, let's say, you have a player, you create an account, so your inventory is going to be you basically your wallet, and your items are going to be the 721 or 1155 NFTs. But you as a player, you never really know that. Like you just, uh, go and play the game as you normally would, which is where what we want, I guess.
That's exactly right. Well, it's a very good point. I think there's a kind of like a vicious cycle here, right? Which
Right,
is you create that experience, right? Let's say Robinhood creates that experience, and every time you open your Robinhood app, it's a full wallet, right? But
right.
then at the point Robinhood says, or Steam or anything like that says, well, we want to be your identity provider, so let's let you connect your Robinhood app to other apps, right? And that uses a Wallet Connect or anything like that. And so that lets you kind of exchange information and money between apps. And so there's this cycle of like crypto in the background, but then crypto turning to be in the forefront and back and forth again. So it's this really interesting, I think, back and forth that we'll see, which is now everyone's around, let's simplify this. And then I think in a year, everyone will be around, well, great, we created these experiences. Now let's tap into this ecosystem.
Right. Yeah. So once you have a product that's simple enough and works the way it should, you can go back to let's explore what else we can do with this technology. Uh, that doesn't necessarily mean simplifying it down. But to your point about simplification, you see this in almost every other industry, especially in the automotive industry. You open the hood of a car 20 years ago, you're going to see all the wires and everything sticking
That's
out.
right.
You could just get in there and fix it yourself. You open the hood of a Tesla. Well, I mean, Tesla's not a good example because it doesn't have a traditional engine, but like a BMW or whatever, do you see nothing? There's nothing there you could understand. You don't
That
have to.
That's exactly right. You don't have to, right? Like there's if we go to the auth part for a second, right? When you click login with Google or login with Facebook, you don't need to know that it uses OAuth, right? And you don't
Right,
need to know that it uses kind of how tokens get exchanged back and forth, or you don't need to know how JWTs work. You
right,
just need to be able to click the button and have it work, right?
right,
The same way, by the way, when I transfer money from me to you, and you're on one part of the side of the world, I'm on the other, I shouldn't need to know that ACH or Swift or anything. I just need to know that I click a button, and ideally you see that money almost instantaneously, and ideally it's very cheap for me to do.
yep,
That's what you need to know, right? And that is the experience that I think we're starting to see. Or you need to know that it makes sense, in my opinion, that you buy a virtual asset on game one, and you just open it and see it on game two,
mm,
right? You just need to know that it works. You shouldn't care about the technology or the underlying experience. You should know that it works, and that's I think where we're going in crypto in general.
yeah. And I think to get there, you have to develop a series of tools that really help the developers create that experience. Because the easier it is for a developer to use, the SDKs, the tools for the platform to integrate your authentication service, the easier it is for them to create a seamless experience for the user. again, it's a recurring thing that I'm seeing a lot of people in crypto building solutions for developers so that then eventually the end user will benefit from those solutions, right? And I wanted to get a little bit into kind of what's under the hood, not getting super technical, but what's under the hood a bit for dynamic. So you have a dynamic SDK for React, so
Yeah.
people can just natively use that in React. I had a look; it seems super intuitive, super easy to use. Do you or are you planning to support other frameworks in the future?
Yes, short answer is yes. Longer answer is we're going to launch React Native in a couple weeks, which is our next React Native and Expo apps for kind of mobile native experiences.
Hmm.
And then obviously we'll expand beyond React, right? At the end of the day, we're an SDK that tries to kind of abstract away your authentication and embedded wallets.
Right.
And so, whether you're building a Vue app or whether you're building a Swift app or a Kotlin app, it should just work for you, right? So, it is very much within our roadmap for this year to expand the SDK to just give you the flexibility on the chain that you need, right? There's a lot of work to do that. But that's very, very much the plan is to just allow you to use it, whether it's a Unity SDK or anything like that. It should just work.
Cool. And what was the main reason for choosing for starting off with React? Are you particularly do you prefer React instead of other frameworks like you yourself?
I would argue that 99% of the projects we have met in crypto use React.
Huh.
And so it is uh I I can count on a single hand the number of conversations that started with people saying, "Do you have a Vue uh,
I was
SD?"
about to ask that.
Yeah, and so it is. There's so much dominance of React. Um, in the space that it made sense for us to start with that. And we haven't seen, frankly, the need to kind of expand from that besides React Native very quickly because it hasn't been a sales blocker for us in that front.
Right. Yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense. You supply whatever their developer need is.
Yeah.
And I know that React is still the most popular front end framework for now, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to beat. I think they have a significant market dominance.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they so did Angular at some point, but eventually React became
That's
just a
true.
big. Yeah.
A- As a former Angular developer, it pains me that I studied that I kind of picked up the wrong framework, but it is I do not hear about it anymore. It's very sad to me. I liked Angular. It was very heavy as a framework, but
Yeah.
it's very sad to me that it went away.
So I was watching Fireship. I'm not sure if you know the guy, a YouTube channel. He does some amazing videos around coding, around what's new in tech. So it kind of gives you the latest scoop in tech. So he's actually had a video on Angular, and Angular is making a comeback with a lot of features that people wanted for a long time. Now I'm not sure if it's a comeback in the like React, getting over React kind of way, but it seems that they're adding a lot of features that people wanted to see for a long time, simplifying it and making it easier to work with and just making it a bit lighter too. Um, I've never used React. I actually started with Vue, and I got comfortable with Vue.js, and I moved into Svelte, and I'm just playing around with Svelte, which is nice, but it's kind of strange a bit because it forces you to do things you don't really want to do, like having a certain like you have to name your files like page dots plus page dot svelte or plus server dot ts or
Yeah.
whatever. You can't just name them whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I feel like we hear of uh, when you get into the kind of developer tools business, like Dynamic is, you realize pretty quickly that technology on its own doesn't win, but
Mm,
rather a community and community engagement and distribution wins. And
right.
so, um, my 2 cents, and I'll say this knowing that I'm usually wrong, so take it with a grain of salt, but my 2 cents is that React is winning not because it's the best technology. It's now winning because it has so much inertia
Mm,
and so much momentum behind it that it's going to be very hard to dethrone. unrelated to whether someone comes up with a 10x thing, right? It's good enough. And so that is kind of one point I think about Angular, in my opinion, is that it wouldn't matter necessarily if Angular's 10x is good. It would matter just that React is so ingrained at this point. I think it's going to be for many years hard to overthrow.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's I feel the case with most developer tools that have wide adoption. Like
Correct.
you look at the banking system, 80% of it still functions on COBOL, which is a programming language written in the 50s or something.
True.
It's completely obsolete. And if you are a COBOL developer, you're making bank on that legacy code. Like it's crazy.
It works well. It's things are hard to change.
True. Well, that's why we have crypto, just to make that change in the world and to kind of bring the financial system into the 21st century. Um, and
And,
hopefully, regulation is on our side, at
and
least going
by the
forward.
way, on that front, right, there's a difference in my opinion between I think historically with crypto, there was a little bit of kind of a perception that crypto was around a rip and replace of the existing financial system.
Right.
And I think the progress is much more kind of an additive
Mm,
progress, right? Of the and there's a little bit of a focus, I think, too much on the pricing side of crypto, but the tech side of crypto is actually really cool, right? You can look at companies like Visa and Mastercard and their experimentation there, which is it is fundamentally a better financial rail for a lot of things versus an ACH or a Swift. And
right.
so it can be additive. You don't have to rip out an ACH or a Swift or kind of credit card networks, but rather you have to add it as an additional option in your app and route things there when it makes sense, right? And so the thing I think crypto has going for it, in my opinion, these days is that it's not a rip and replace system, but rather it's an additive thing that can work really well over time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it became an additive thing, I think, in time. I think back when it started, the idea was, okay, this is just better money, pure and simple. This just makes sense if you look at the white Bitcoin's white paper. But then all of the scalability and security issues and people's realization that this is really early and there's going to be so
That's right.
many exploits and other issues that are going to crop up with this technology that it's I think is getting to a point where it makes sense to integrate within the current system rather than completely take over. Um, I think the problem from a regulatory perspective is that that integration often means reducing the possibility of what cryptocurrency can do. For instance, I think Binance will be delisting Monero on 20th of February. And I think some other exchanges have taken that step as well. And, partly I can understand it, right? I can understand delisting Monero for the reason that it's being used, but it's also you're just telling people you can't have privacy. You're not allowed on chain to have any form of privacy. Uh,
Yeah, it's I debate around that. I think look, I think companies have to work within the rules defined in their respective
right,
countries, right? And I think it's beyond my scope of expertise, but I would argue that there's always a balance between trust and privacy, right?
mm,
Of what, but you're right. I think I don't have enough context into the decision around Monero. I would argue that over time, you're probably going to get within EVM and within L2s networks that are a little bit more privacy preserving and privacy
right,
focused, and there's going to be significant use cases for them. As long as they kind of all play by the rules of the road, then absolutely, right? Like, uh, not all my credit card transactions are visible to everyone, right? And so I'm sure there's some sort of balance that we'll need to strike as an industry, as kind of I think at the regulation level for what is the right balance between protecting against bad actors and kind of
right.
optimizing for privacy at the same time.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying people are not using Monero to buy drugs. They absolutely are. Right. But people also use cash to buy drugs. You can just go to your ATM. Take $20 out, go buy crack if you really want to. Like that's
Right. No. Look, I think again, I don't have a strong kind of argument here for Monero specifically versus a kind of a more holistic. There's there's always going to be balance here, right? And like
Yeah.
trade offs, especially in newer financial ecosystems like crypto, where you try to find the right kind of middle ground for, anything can be used as a bad tool and a good tool,
Yeah.
anything in life, right? And so trying to find that middle ground, I think, is important. And obviously you see extremism on both sides of like, hey, allow everything and then allow nothing. And those, neither of those are probably the right approach, versus kind of a balance there, right? There's things around the travel rule and things like that. Again, beyond my realm of expertise, but I'm sure there's going to be over time, these things oscillate and get to like a steady state, usually a good one over kind of a long enough time horizon.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. I feel like balance is definitely what's needed, because you have like people that are in crypto, have been in crypto for a long time, and they're like really into crypto, and then you have regulators that come from the other side of
Right.
traditional financial markets, and they're a lot more conservative, and they're a lot more apprehensive about new technologies. So I think ultimately you do have this kind of, hey, we're on one extreme and we're on the other extreme, but I feel like there's still some way to go until both those parties meet and shake hands and go like, all right, let's actually use this for the better of humanity, which is, I guess, what it's all
That's
about ultimately.
That's exactly right. And I think a lot of it is moving away from the money side of crypto and talking about prices and
Yeah.
moving into the technology side of crypto of, hey, is there a fundamentally better technology here for kind of global settlement or global exchange of identity or global exchange of kind of virtual goods, versus the current systems, right? Like in my mind, the simulation I run like in my mind is, would you, if the Visa network or the Mastercard network were decentralized networks, would you be able to build five Visa size companies on top of Visa, on
Mm.
top of the Visa network? Or if the Twitter social graph was decentralized, right, and Twitter was a front end for that, would you be able to build 5, 10 innovative companies on top of it that create more market value for the industry, right? And so that's a little bit the way I think about it, is not necessarily, I don't really care about the price side of crypto as much as I care about, does it enable more use cases by taking kind of a centralized network and decentralizing it in a way that allows more competition, right? I think it's actually a very like capitalistic idea of, hey, take a network that's currently owned by a single player or a set of players and structure it in a way that enables more competition in that network, and everyone wins as a result. Maybe not the incumbent, but everyone besides that kind of wins, right? And so that's a little bit how I think about like the magic here and the value here is, I think we need to have more of those conversations of does it create like, just does it grow the pie?
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. Like that's spot on. And I think in the long term, eventually organizations and solutions that have real use cases that grow the industry and that propel technology forward are going to shine and are going to grow, and they're going to see adoption. Whereas, like meme coins or stuff like that, they're eventually, I think they're eventually going to phase out, because there's you can only be hype about something without utility for so long until you eventually get bored with it, and then you move on to the next thing. So maybe there's going to be a, I don't know, a perpetual machine that keeps creating useless things, but I feel that's just a kind of a byproduct of building useful applications.
Yeah, the look, every, this is true for anything else, right? AI, this is true for anything else, which
Mm,
is a byproduct, of a gold rush towards a new set of technologies, is usually like experimentation, and some of it is like bad experimentation and needs to be nipped in the bud. But there's always,
mm,
uh, you you don't know, right? A lot of use cases cannot exist, are obvious in hindsight, but without, doing them you don't know. So good I think about examples like the iPhone, in the sense
Right.
that, at the beginning there it wasn't it didn't enable third party apps, right? And like the Apple was very careful around that, right? And didn't enable. And once it did, it created so many like opportunities for companies that could not exist before, right? And so it's hard to regulate this stuff beforehand, because you actually don't know. It's very hard to know what comes out of an enablement of like a potential kind of new distribution channel or technology, etc. Right? And
Of course.
regulation is critical, but regulation too soon is really hard. Again, I think about it as even European regulation around Apple's like cable for how you charge the iPhone, right? Super well intended, right? Like there are too many types, and you got to have some sort of regulation around it. But hey, what if the right solution is actually no cable at all, right? have you
Right.
have you actually created more barriers versus enabled, right? So I do not do not envy regulators in this sense, because it's these are really tough problems to solve.
Oh yeah. And I think more discussion around these problems eventually lead to better solutions.
That's right.
It's just a matter of time. Like you said, you can't regulate something until at least you have some understanding of what that thing is and where it could go from
But
here.
yeah, but even if you have a phenomenal understanding, right? Like even if like if you were sitting there at Apple, right, and the iPhone better than anyone, would you have predicted Uber? I don't know if you would, right? Like
Yeah.
and so even the most skilled, in the weeds player doesn't necessarily know how to predict. A good example I see on the dynamic side, right? We let you abstract the crypto stack.
Right.
On a day-to-day basis, I see ideas of companies that are being formed that I could not in a million years describe that idea to you beforehand. And they're phenomenal ideas, and they use our tech and they use our tech stack, right? But it's very hard for anyone, right? If predicting the future was easy, then we would all be very wealthy, right? But it's very hard, I think, to predict, and therefore sometimes you got to kind of take a step back and let things unfold.
Oh yeah. And that's a very good point. And I was just about to ask you this when you said like being at Apple, you wouldn't have predicted Uber because and I agree, you couldn't have predicted Uber or any of the other companies that are or that have had some kind of regulatory scrutiny because of the way they operate. Um, do you guys see, or what kind of companies have you guys seen using your application stack, and what are some of the most unique implementations of your dynamic system?
Yeah, so this is where it's really cool, which we get to see everything, right? We get over the last 48 hours, I've seen companies thinking about rethinking how they do music on chain, right? And how you think about music ownership and sharing profits. And then I saw a company building kind of a phone first exchange for crypto that doesn't look like crypto at all. And I saw a gaming company, and I saw a company that says, let's take land and tokenize it and let anyone buy that within a single click, right? And transfer the deed to them, right? And I've seen a company that takes collector's items like Pokemon cards and stores them in the vault and issues a tokenized version of that and lets you buy and sell Pokemon cards, right? And so that was my last 48 hours, right? And so
That's
we
crazy.
see such a huge breadth of different kind of experiences that it's actually very hard to know. Like I this is the favorite part of my job is that like I have a call. I think if I look at my calendar, I probably have like three other calls with potential customers today, and they are on a completely set of different kind of experiences that they're trying to build. And that's really cool, right? It's sort of like saying we're the internet. There's so many use cases, right? It's not like a single thing, and it's pretty awesome to see. It's pretty awesome to see, and that was a non-answer answer to your question of what are people building, which is really they're building anything. They're building anything from like we've seen, I think this week, kind of a Venmo or like a PayPal like thing for Turkey and Eastern Europe. That's like a complete different thing than a financial assets company trying to tokenize something on chain. So, or we've seen art projects, right? They're trying to do some stuff. So that is a full spectrum of different types of experiences that we see every week.
Yeah, I think that is the amazing thing about building an application that has potentially unlimited use cases, that it enables people to do things that you could have and you could not have predicted. Um, I think from a regulatory perspective, yeah, I guess you guys don't have too much to worry about, right? There's not a lot of financial things you need to take into account, I'm guessing.
Look, so we offer non-custodial wallets, right? We still there's always regulations with regards to OFAC and SOC 2 and not SOC 2, OFAC and kind of GDPR and CCPA and things of
Right.
that sort. And we really care. Look, at the end of the day, like wallets, even though they're non-custodial, they touch, wallets have access to people's money, right? And those individuals are the only ones that can actually access their wallets, but we have to always be thoughtful in security and how we approach that and how we approach kind of giving people and developers tools. We're working on two-factor authentication methods or other tools that developers can provide. So we care about this stuff mostly of kind of from a security lens, from a kind of a trust and safety lens. And we spend, we have audits, and we have a bug bounty program that's an open program. So we spend a lot of our time on it.
Yeah. I think the bug bounty is a big one. I think leveraging community to kind of improve the product
Yeah.
is definitely a cool thing.
Oh, absolutely. We use, by the way, for that we use a phenomenal company called HackerOne, which kind of works
Okay.
with hackers to actually kind of bring those in and kind of let them poke around their system and make sure things work well. It's been awesome.
Also, Hacker One. I'm just making a note of that. Sounds fantastic. Hacker One. Nice. Um, so going back to the idea of identities, of Web3 wallet identities and SSO, how do you guys manage this in the back end? For instance, Auth0, you can link different identities. If I have an email identity and a Google identity, those would be linked on the back end. Do you do kind of like the same thing between wallets and Google and
Yes, so exactly. So we have something called multi-wallet, right? Multi-wallet
okay.
linking, which inherently lets you link your email address to your wallet address to a second wallet address on Solana. So you can start building these really cool profiles for folks in a privacy preserving manner. But yes, absolutely. It's a big feature that we do. We see that for NFT marketplaces that want to let you log in multiple wallets. We see that for experiences that want to start in a crypto abstracted experience, but then link your wallets thereafter. So we see a lot of those types of kind of use cases for multi-wallet linking.
Nice. So would you say then people kind of rely on this interconnectivity of things to access their favorite applications in an easier way?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And there's some really cool projects out there like Delegate that does this on chain. Absolutely, it's a big part of what we do.
Nice. So it was Web3 though that was the main idea, and then the traditional Web2 stack on top of that.
Yeah. So the main idea, I think, is it comes back from the hypothesis that everything becomes a wallet, right?
Right.
So that opens really two sides to this, which is the way you interact with sites and apps is going to be through wallets, and the way your apps are built is going to be have a wallet component on them, right? So they're really two sides of the same coin. That's inherently where we play.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense if you kind of. I mean, it makes sense, but it also makes sense if you consider the wallet just an object that can own other things, which is essentially what data is: hierarchical structures that of objects that own other objects or have limited permissions
Yes,
for the
that's right.
objects.
Yes, and then by the way, that's where you start seeing things like account abstraction or ERC 6551, which is like token bound accounts. There's so many like interesting, nuanced experiences that you can create.
Oh, I saw account abstraction on your website, but I wasn't really sure what it is.
Yeah, so at the very basic level, account abstraction, is the following, which is add additional logic to what your wallet can and can't do. So
Okay.
I log in with an email and I generate a wallet, right? At the very basic level, a wallet can sign things, right? But then wallets have, when you sign a transaction, you need to pay gas, and it needs to be in the native token of the ecosystem,
Right.
and pay. And you might not want to sign for everything because some signatures might be like for 1 cent, right? And you might want additional backup methods. So account abstraction is a layer that does that. Essentially, it generates a smart contract that sits on top of your wallet and acts as your wallet. So it can add logic like, hey, let me pay gas fees in USDC, or let
Okay.
me actually have a developer sponsor gas fees, or let me create session keys. So really think about account abstraction as just a magical layer on top of your wallet that lets you do additional things.
That's really cool. That's really good. You could definitely take that in so many directions. Could you limit the scope of your wallet in that, hey, I only want you to interact with like these 20 contracts and nothing
That's
else?
exactly right. Yes. So really think about it as a policy engine uh, on top of your embedded wallets.
That's really cool. Have you had any companies use that, and in what
Yeah.
capacity?
It's very, very common.
Yeah, I'm guessing when you're building things to interact with your application, maybe you don't want to open up a vector of attack by allowing a wallet to process or to interact with other contracts they shouldn't.
Yes, exactly. So really think about it as an on-chain policy engine
Huh,
for your wallet.
that's super cool. Is that common across the industry? I wasn't aware of this, or is it just something that you guys have introduced?
It's pretty common. It's starting to get more and more traction. Many think it's kind of the next few chains will just have that built into the chain.
Right. That's pretty cool. And you've also mentioned another token standard, which I also didn't
Six
hear.
five five one. This is essentially think about it's essentially what's called token bound accounts. A token can own another token. Uh,
Right.
what that inherently means is that if you buy a, a house on chain, that house has a deed, right? The very basic approval, you have the house, but a house has several parts. It has the land, it has the structure, it has,
Right.
right, and you can represent each of those as an NFT that rolls up to the bigger NFT, right? And so you can start kind of trading subset of those, right? You can start saying, hey, let me sell you this specific thing within the house, right? So think about it as a tree structure for NFTs.
Okay, so is the 6551 the owner of the other tokens, or is
Just
it
the
the
standard for
collection?
building. It's just the standard for building that collection.
Oh, that's cool. That has a lot of use cases in well, in a lot of things. Also gaming. Yeah, you
Yes,
could have a character that owns other tokens that then you own the character.
yes, that is exactly right. So, shameless plug for anyone who wants to read more about it. We have a blog post around that on our website. So, just dynamic.xyz/blog. We have an article around 6551.
Oh, that's cool. I'll definitely check it out. I like to be up to date with these things. I have it on my list to read about the ERC 404, which I still haven't yet. I know it's getting a bit more popular, and it's definitely something that I need to read about.
Sounds great. Yeah, there's a bunch of things I recommend. So, EAP 7212, RAP 7560. There's a lot of really interesting ones.
Awesome. And what do you guys have planned for 2024? What new features, what new cool things and additions do you have planned for
Yeah,
this
we
year?
keep most of those secret, but
Okay.
really at the very basic level, at the very high level, it's about abstracting more of your crypto stack. How do we make it as simple as kind of a single thing to do everything we described? As simple as 10 minutes and you're done, right? That is our goal. That's what we're going for. And so you're going to see us abstract more and more and more of that.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. I'll definitely keep an eye out on any new updates and blog posts. Um, Anything that you want to share with the listeners? Social media plug, website, developer resources.
Yeah, absolutely. So in shameless founder fashion, I will do all of those, which is say, if anyone's curious to learn more about Dynamic, go to dynamic.xyz. You can play around with our demo.dynamic.xyz. Uh, I would suggest you start there. We're on Twitter at dynamic underscore XYZ. We're on Farcaster if you're more a crypto native uh, person, then you might know a social network called Farcaster. We're just dynamic there. We got our handle first. You can also follow me, Itai, and that's pretty much it. If you ever need anything on the kind of learning more about dynamic and you're listening to this podcast, just reach out.
Dude, that sounds incredible. Thank you so much for this. Thanks for explaining Dynamic. I think it's a great solution, and I wish you guys all the best. Um, One quick question on Farcaster, because I've been reading about it this week. I'm considering getting on it. Is it worth it?
Absolutely, absolutely, phenomenal. I strongly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's like crypto Twitter, but focused on founders and builders, not on prices. And it's super insightful.
That sounds ideal.
Yeah,
I'll set up an account 100%. Um,
absolutely.
all right,
Follow,
Itai.
follow me on Farcaster. I need all the
What's your handle? What's your handle?
just Itai, ITAI.
ITAI. Okay, sweet
Awesome.
stuff, man.
Very cool.
Well, listen, I had a great time, and let's do this again sometime.
Sounds awesome. I very much appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome, dude. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye bye.